The hot Arizona sun hung high above the desert as Cowboy Thomas Reed stood outside his small ranch, staring at the empty stable. For the first time in many years, he felt a deep sense of worry. His best mare, Daisy, was gone. Daisy was not just a horse. She had been Thomas's closest companion through countless hardships. She had carried him across dangerous trails, through heavy storms, and across miles of unforgiving land. After losing his family and living alone for years, Daisy was the one constant in his life. Thomas searched around the ranch, hoping she had only wandered into the nearby fields. But the ground told a different story. There were fresh hoof prints leading away from the property. He followed the tracks for several miles until he reached the edge of a rocky wilderness. The trail continued toward a place most settlers avoided, a remote canyon deep in Apache territory. Many ranchers in the area warned people not to enter those lands. They spoke of hidden valleys, dangerous cliffs, and old conflicts between settlers and native tribes. But Thomas did not turn back. Daisy had saved his life more than once, and he would not abandon her now. He packed water, supplies, and his rifle before riding into the canyon. The farther he traveled, the quieter the world became. Tall red cliffs surrounded him, and the only sounds were the wind and the steady steps of his horse beneath him. Hours passed. Then Thomas noticed something unusual. A torn piece of leather was hanging from sharp rock. He climbed down and picked it up. It was part of Daisy's saddle. "You're close, girl," he whispered. Following the trail, Thomas entered a narrow passage between the canyon walls. The sunlight barely reached the ground, and strange markings covered some of the rocks around him. Suddenly, he heard a familiar sound, a horse's gentle cry. Thomas moved quickly and found Daisy standing near a hidden spring. She was tired but unharmed. Relief washed over him, but then he noticed something beside her. A small wooden post stood near the spring, and attached to it was an old leather pouch covered in dust. Curious, Thomas opened it carefully. Inside were three things: a faded letter, a silver pendant, and a hand-drawn map. The letter was old, but the words were still readable. Thomas began to read. The message spoke about a secret promise made many years earlier. It mentioned a lost family, a hidden place in the canyon, and a truth that had been forgotten by time. As he studied the pendant, his expression changed. The symbol carved into the silver looked familiar. It was the same symbol that had appeared on an old family item his father had kept before he died. Thomas had no idea why this object was here or how it was connected to his own past. Before he could read the letter again, a voice came from behind him. "Where did you find that?" Thomas turned slowly. At the entrance of the canyon stood an Apache woman watching him carefully. Her face showed surprise, not anger. She looked at the letter in his hand and then at the pendant. "My name is Naya," she said quietly. "That belongs to my family." Thomas realized his lost mare had not simply wandered away from the ranch. Daisy had led him into the canyon for a reason. And whatever secret was hidden, there was about to change his future forever. Thomas stood silently in the canyon, holding the old letter and silver pendant while the Apache woman watched him carefully. The desert wind moved between the tall red cliffs, carrying the feeling that something important from the past was finally being revealed. "My name is Naya," the woman repeated. "That pendant belonged to my grandfather. He carried it until the day he disappeared." Thomas looked at the symbol carved into the silver. His mind went back to the stories his father used to tell him when he was a child. He remembered an old wooden box that had been kept locked away for years. Inside was a similar symbol, but Thomas had never understood its meaning. "Why does this look like something my father owned?" Thomas asked. Naya's expression changed. She stepped closer and carefully looked at the pendant. "Then maybe the past brought you here for a reason," she said. Together, they opened the faded letter again. The handwriting was old, but the message was clear. It told the story of two men who had once worked together during the difficult days of the frontier. One was Thomas's father, and the other was Naya's grandfather. They were not enemies, as many people believed. They were friends. The two men had protected families traveling through dangerous lands and had hidden important records that could prove the truth about their shared history. They had placed those records somewhere inside the canyon, waiting for the right person to find them. Thomas and Naya followed the map through a narrow path between the cliffs. After hours of searching, they discovered a hidden cave covered by fallen rocks. Inside, they found an old wooden chest. Thomas opened it slowly. The chest contained journals, family letters, and documents that explained everything. The papers revealed that his father had spent years trying to create peace between settlers and the Apache people. He had believed that understanding and respect were stronger than fear. Thomas felt overwhelmed. For years, he had carried sadness and anger because he thought his father had left behind unanswered questions. Now he finally understood the truth. His father had not abandoned his mission. He had protected it. Naya also discovered letters from her grandfather. They showed that he had hoped future generations would remember friendship instead of conflict. When Thomas returned to his ranch, he brought the documents with him. Instead of keeping the discovery a secret, he shared the truth with the nearby communities. Slowly, old misunderstandings began to disappear. Thomas built a stronger relationship with Naya's people and helped protect the canyon that held their shared history. The place that had once represented separation became a symbol of respect and unity. Daisy, the mare who started the journey, became a legend around the ranch. People joked that she had a better sense of direction than any cowboy alive. Years later, when visitors asked Thomas how he discovered the hidden canyon, he always gave the same answer. "I thought I was searching for my lost horse." He smiled and looked toward the mountains. But Daisy was leading me to something I had lost long before. The journey into Apache land did not just reveal a forgotten secret. It gave Thomas a new purpose, new friendships, and a future he never expected. Sometimes the things we lose are the very things that guide us toward what we were meant to find.